Huh. But I'm gonna go with, I'm not here to judge you. Why else would you be so keen on watching me? I'm mostly curious. Curious? I want to know how good you really were. Then yes, you are judging me. I hold out my hand and he stares, taking it back. I should not be scolded for only being curious. Why not just one little dance to prove how talented you are? Rod stares at me for a few minutes before he recklessly takes my hand. Fine, you better not step on my feet. Rod starts leading the dance. He glides us into the imaginary rhythm of a waltz. Even without the music, I'm able to count the steps in my head as I follow his lead. This is different from that short dance we showed Emmeline. Rod's movements are graceful, his touch gentle as he leads me to an underarm twirl. When I come to his face once again, I notice the gentle way he stares at me. The usual hardness of expression is gone, melted into something relaxed. I find myself staring back at him, looking into his eyes. Perhaps Rod does have some gentleness to him. Our gaze does not break as he twirls me. You have beautiful eyes. Rod's eyes widen as soon as mine do. He abruptly let go of my hands and steps back. I can only stare at him, my face warm. It wasn't me this time. That was more than just a thought, I swear. Rod says nothing, though his cheeks continue to darken with embarrassment. Oh my! Okay. So I think we made the right decision. The gel didn't show up, so we're gonna just go back and just see what happens if we say the other thing. Maybe we can save there, honestly. And then load. Yes. I'm sure that I'm a better dancer than you. The scowl on Rod's face deepens. Emma smirk. Maybe he is reluctant to show me, but Rod is always full of pride. He's more likely to show me if I pose a challenge. You didn't even answer the question. And are you underestimating my dancing? The others may have forgotten, but you still remember, do you not? I am a princess and was taught by the kingdom's best instructor. I say the words with pride, and I notice Rod's lips twitch in response. It actually makes me feel accomplished to get under Rod's skin when he's usually the one getting under mine. Having the best instructor does not automatically make you the best dancer. I'm pretty confident with my own skills. Say what you want, but I refuse to believe you are without any proof. I still say that I'm a better dancer than you are. That was really the better decision, huh? Rod steps forward and pulls me silently to his arms, taking me by surprise. He looks at me clearly determined. Fine then, you'll have your proof. I'll make you swallow those words with this dance. We shall see. Rod starts leading the dance. He glides us into the blah. So we can just skip through all that. Oh my! Rod and I turn to look at Emmeline, who is hovering by the door. Excuse me. Brad quickly walks through the doorway and out into the hallway, leaving Emmeline and I alone in the room. What just happened? That was a wonderful dance, see? You were watching? I only just saw the last few minutes, but you know, the two of you really did look like a couple. It was sweet. A couple? Oh, you're blushing. I put a hand to my cheek and turn away with a scowl. I am not. Besides, whatever just happened was embarrassing. Do you like Rod? I stare at her. I do not. Also, you're forgetting that I'm a maid who could not be with the prince even if I wanted to. He is grumpy and cold, and even though we are not blood related, he is still my stepbrother. Yeah, see? Okay, they talk about it in the story. He's still my stepbrother. If only Emmeline realized how crazy her words were in the light of the truth. Emmeline suddenly looks starry-eyed as she giggles at me. Love knows no boundaries, dear Z. Besides, he seems to like you. Your brother hates me. Rod? Can be a contradiction sometimes. Sometimes he says the opposite of what he feels. It's only when you get to know him as well as I do that you realize what his truths are. I cannot help but think of Sebi, who always speaks Rod's thoughts aloud when they are contradictory. He was always so mean to Viorica when we were young. He would always bully her for being a crybaby, even though he cried far more often. And then I realized that he treated her more special than he did anyone else. Back then, I knew that he liked her. Yo, we figured that out. I thought that one day the two of them might even grow to love each other, but Emmeline lets out a loud sigh as she directs her attention out the window. His attitude toward her has changed ever since he was cursed, then they grew even more distant when Viorica found a lover. Is that the reason why you've been going to the toy shop with Prince Rod? Because you want to bring them back together? Emily nods. The three of us were best friends, the three musketeers. It's not the same without Rod. I keep on asking him what's wrong, but he refuses to tell me. He's always been stubborn, but it's not like him to keep secrets. It's really frustrating because I have no idea what I would do to help him. I thought he was just being stubborn with me, but apparently no amount of prodding, even from his own family, will make him budge. Why is he being so difficult? Hope you did not mind me asking, but what do you know about his curse? Wait, did we just ask about the curse to her? No, we did, what? Emily stares at me for a few moments before nodding. You're my friend Z, and I know that I can confide in you. I know that sometimes I'm not trusting enough, but I think Emmeline is still far too trusting. Well, I know that he has the mermaid's curse. I've read the story so many times, hoping that I can figure out some way to break his curse. I think back and I realized that I had actually read the beginning of The Little Mermaid a long time ago, but I did not have the chance to finish it because I was caught with my mother. Well, from what I know about fairy tales, and if it was actually the Brothers Grimm version and not the happy Disney version, I know in the end that Ariel turns into literal sea foam. Like, she doesn't have a happy ending, so... But I don't know how they decided the story should go in this. The Little Mermaid is about a mermaid who trades her voice for legs, right? Yeah, she does it so she can be with her prince. Rod's voice was taken away, but I'm sure that he was given something in exchange. I've heard that the curse are derived from the original tales, but that they are twisted in some way to fit the format of a curse. I nod slowly, thoughtful. I have a strong feeling that Rod's curse is related to Viorica, but I cannot draw the connection. But still, Viorica might be the key to understanding his curse. If Rod will not divulge anything, the next best thing we have of understanding his curse might be going through Viorica. Wow, we're just gonna actually end it there. Chapter 7. Be careful what you wish for. Today's the first time that I'm leaving the palace on a day off. Usually I choose to stay inside. Whereas the other servants always leave to go home, I never see any reason to leave since this has always been my home. And the March Inn has never been home. Besides, not as if I want to return, not after that conversation we all shared last time. Thus I have spent most of my days asking questions about Mother's reign, inquiring when and where I can. The opinions do not surprise me. I was so scared of her. One wrong move and she'd have you thrown in prison. Townsfolk would always wait for her to pass by before leaving their houses. She was a tyrant. The kingdom is a better place now that she's gone. There's no reason for them to lie to me. The more I hear, the more my old life makes sense to me. I now know why the king never seemed to love Mother and why the people hated her. And the reason people look at me with such fear. However, it has been months since I have been glared at in public. There is one good thing that this curse did for me. It is that it allows me to travel around town without being noticed. As Viorica's shop comes into view, my thoughts shift to the reason I have left the palace in the first place. If Rod will not tell me anything, I will have to ask Viorica. She must be related in some way to his curse. I pause outside the door to the toy shop with a deep breath. I push the door open. Welcome! The moment she sees me, her expression becomes confused. Oh, you're the princess maid, Z, wasn't it? I nod at her. You've never come in here alone before. What can I help you with? I wanted to ask you something. It is about Prince Rod. Prince Rod? Did something happen to him? Is he okay? He's fine. She sighs with relief. And then what is it would you like to ask? I just wanted to know if you knew anything about Prince Rod's sudden muteness. Viorica stares at me for a few moments before she shakes her head. I only know that it happened as soon after I met my fiancé, Desimond. What reason do you have for asking? Well, I try to think of a plausible explanation for this, and I immediately consider Emmeline. Viorica's Emmeline's best friend. Viorica's Emmeline's best friend. Surely she would be willing to help if she knew I was doing this for Emmeline. Prince Rod has been very quiet recently. Princess Emmeline has been worried sick about him, but he refuses to say anything, even to her. I have been trying to gather information that might be helpful in discerning the cause. I stared expectantly, hoping that my gaze holds nothing but determination. Finally, Viorica smiles. She's lucky to have a dedicated friend like you. I'm still not accustomed to the fact that Emmeline considers me a friend. Before she becomes the princess, I was her first confidant. We were like sisters. But now that she's living in the castle, we no longer have the luxury of spending so much time together. I worry about her constantly. Even around me, Em always tends to keep her problems to herself at first. She doesn't like to bother other people with them. It is hard not to agree. The way Emmeline was always smiling before, I never thought she had any problems in her life. It was only recently that I discovered that she was hiding all her loneliness and pain behind a smile. It's a relief that she befriended someone who cares so much about her. I don't know if I can be much help, but I'll tell you what I know if it will help Emmeline. To start with, I'm not exactly sure how everything changed, but it all happened so suddenly. All I know is that after that night I met Desmond, our relationship changed. At first he still smiled, but recently he's been avoiding me. What happened between the two of you the night you met your fiancé? Nothing. Rod and I did not meet on that day. Prince Rod wasn't there. No, but soon after what happened that night, Rod grew distant. What happened? It was a stormy night, and I was heading back home. I took the route by the riverbank because it was the shortest route. It was foolish of me. The road was slippery and full of mud. I lost my footing and fell into the water. The waves were strong, and I was certain I was going to drown. I don't remember what happened in the darkness of that water, only that when I woke up, my head was in dissonance. No, it was Rod that totally saved her. Aww. That was the first time we met, but not the last. He carried me home, and he came by every day as I was recovering. Then he came to visit even after I had recovered. I try not to get my hopes up too much because what could this nobleman see in me, a mere commoner? What was a nobleman? But I still ended up falling in love with him. You have no idea how happy I was when he said he loved me too. It was a dream come true. Of course, every girl dreams of marrying a prince. It was in all of the fairy tales that I read as a child. None of that was at all related to Rod. How does this relate to his curse? Say your relationship with Prince Rod changed after that night. What happened? Eureka sighs. I told Em and Rod about Desmond soon after the incident. Em was happy that the two of us had fallen in love, but Rod didn't say much of anything. That's when I noticed he started growing distant, and when I realized that he had also lost his voice, he still won't tell me anything. But I figured that he was... Her voice fades, but I know she's referring to the curse. So Rod lost his voice shortly after Eureka met Desmond. The mermaid's curse must have something to do with the tale. The little mermaid traded her voice for legs so that she could be with her prince, but that night, the only person who found their Prince Charming was Eureka. Rod's curse must have something to do with Desmond and Eureka. He became distant with her after finding out about Desmond. Why? Then, there is the fact that he still spoke to Eureka even if he was distant. It was only when he found out about their wedding that he became so cold. I frown as I try to organize my thoughts. How did it get to be this late? I'm so sorry, Z, but I have to close the shop now. Sorry for the story. I know this has nothing to do with Rod, but it was after that incident that he began to act strangely. I don't think I was much help, but I shake my head. You have told me what you could. Eureka walks me to the door, opening it so that both of us can step out onto the street together. I really hope that you're able to help Emmeline and Rod. I hope so too. Did you see Ophelia the other day? I catch sight of two noblemen sitting on a bench together not too far away from the toy shop. They are referring to Ophelia without her title. How disrespectful. Who would have thought a peasant like her almost looked like royalty, but her dress. As a queen, she ought to be wearing silks rather than satin. And I don't know why, but I bristle at their comments. Everyone is entitled to their opinion, but the fact that they are speaking so bluntly in public means that they have little worry for being overheard. I'm still not sure what the king saw in her. Well, you know what they say about ladies lacking natural beauty. Her talents must lie in other, more persuasive areas. Oh, yo, they did not just go there. She must be very persuasive indeed if the king saw it worthwhile to marry her. As the two women laugh, I feel something hot begin to burn in my stomach. Eureka takes in a sharp breath beside me. Since I became a maid in the palace, Ophelia has been nothing but kind to me, a mere servant. She has all the right to flaunt her status and title, yet she remains humble. I now know this is why everyone at the palace loves her. A common woman like her can only keep a man's attention for so long. I start walking toward them without thinking. Z, I wouldn't... You have no right to say those things about the queen. The two women are clearly surprised at my interruption. Both of them glare at me. And you have no right to eavesdrop on us. Eavesdropping, anyone could have heard you. Their mouths fall open. One of the women look at me for a long time and sneer suddenly as if something has occurred to her. I thought you looked familiar. You're the crown princess's personal maid. I see you're always following her around when she's in town. This is none of your business, girl. Why do you care so much for our opinions? Perhaps it's because the girl idolizes the queen. Thinks she might also go from rags to riches. What? Oh, you do have a point. They stand and advance toward me. Do you want the prince for yourself, girl? If a commoner can become the queen, it's not difficult to imagine yourself as a princess, is it? How foolish, you're better off dreaming smaller dreams, girl. They laugh in the irritation of my chest blazes into full-on anger. This is what Ophelia has been dealing with for the past year. She is being treated so cruelly, and when she has done nothing but love the king. And I also ridiculed her just like this. I forced myself to look at the cruel woman as I moved my hands to the pendant hanging on my neck. I was just as cruel as them. I barely feel Viorica's hand as she rests against my shoulder. See, let it go. Her Majesty wouldn't want you to do this. But I cannot just let these two women talk about Ophelia like this. Pull away from Viorica, stand firm. This is where we get the second charm, boys! The queen has a good heart. She is far more noble than either of you could ever hope to be. I think back on the times I was cruel to her. Ophelia could have easily reprimanded me for my behavior. She had that right as my stepmother, yet she had been nothing but kind to me. Ophelia never got angry at me, even despite my treatment toward her and her family. She has always treated others with kindness, even when they are cruel to her. Judging from the bitterness in your accusation, it seems like you are jealous of her. How pathetic. The other woman marches toward me, and my free hand instinctively moves to hold her hand just before her palm reaches my cheeks. I will not tolerate any insult toward the queen. A soft light emanates from the pendant, and I can only stare at it in shock. Let's go! I got another good deed by defending Ophelia. The woman snatches her hand away. How dare a peasant like you talk that way to us? Have you no manners? I could ask you the same. What happened to yours? Ooh, burn! How dare you? Don't you know who we are, girl? I will see you pay for your impertinence. My words have far more weight than yours ever will. I will go to the king myself to tell him about how rude you were. I can pass on their message myself. Oh. I turn and see Rod walking toward us, his expression cold. The two noblemen hastily curtsy. Your Highness? The noblewomen turn pale as Rod's eyes fall on them. Actually, we have an important dinner engagement. Yeah, we do. The two noblewomen curtsy before quickly departing. What are you doing here without your guards, you? What trouble have you gotten yourself into now?